I'll never forget the first time I ever met Lenard. It was a beautiful summer day, and I was looking out over the blue waters of Lake Erie, and I was doodling away in my journal, thinking about how I could inspire others to tell their story, but not just any story, a visual story, using simple line drawings. And then he appeared to me. I didn't know it at the time, but my new friend was about to teach me how to draw a story. So let me share it with you. Lenard the line. This is Lenard. Lenard's a pretty typical line as far as lines go. As a matter of fact, Lenard works on an assembly line. He works with a good bunch of other lines on the assembly line, and all in all, they take great pride in keeping everything running in line on the assembly line. One day, though, after work, instead of going out with the other lines, Lenard went to the movies by himself, and while he was standing in line, this beautiful curvaceous curve came up and stood behind him. Her name was Lois, and she sang in a chorus line. Lenard got up his courage and, using his best line, asked her if she'd like to go out for coffee after the movie. To his surprise, she said yes. After the movie, they went around the corner to a small cafe, and they sat drinking cappuccinos till late into the morning. They found they liked each other, and they giggled and laughed. It wasn't long after that Lenard and Lois could be seen out everywhere together, dancing together. Then one day, Lois said to Lenard, "Lenard, I'd like you to meet a new friend of mine. Her name is Lulu Lalina. She's a famous interior decorator designer. I think you'll like her quite a bit." Lenard had never quite met a line like her before, but he said yes. And they got along quite well. And Lulu said to Lenard, "Lenard, you work on an assembly line, but do you do anything creative? Do you draw? Do you paint? Do you sing? Do you dance? Do you do poetry?" And Lenard says, "No, Lulu, I work on an assembly line. That's what I do. I keep everything running in line." She said, "Well, darling, think about it. You might find that you like doing something creative once in a while." Several weeks went by, and Lenard thought about what Lulu had said, and one day he picked up a paintbrush, and he started to draw the usual straight lines that a line would draw. But then one day something special happened. Lenard drew a diagonal. He started to feel different. And then he drew a squiggle. Lenard started to feel free. And then one day, Lenard drew a curve, and he curved it, and he curved it, and he curved it, and he curved it all the way around until it touched itself again. Lenard was amazed. He had drawn a circle. Soon Lenard was doing diagonals, squiggles, circles, triangles, squares. Lenard had freed himself. That night in bed, as Lenard and Lois sat talking, Lois looked at Lenard. She says, "Lenard, something's different about you. You have a squiggle in you." Lenard said, "Yes, Lois, I know. It's the painting. It's changed me. I feel different. I see myself differently. I see the world differently." She said, "Well, darling, I like the squiggle in you." The next day, Lois was so excited that she had to take Lenard's paintings down to Lulu and show Lulu what Lenard had been up to. When Lulu saw the paintings, she was absolutely amazed by what she saw. She couldn't believe what Lenard had been up to. She said, "Lois, we have to have a show for Lenard. Other lines need to see Lenard's paintings." And so they arranged a show for Lenard. And soon lines of lines came to see Lenard's paintings. It was a huge success, and the paintings flew off the wall. That night, though, after driving home after the show, as Lenard and Lois drove home in Lenard's new box, Lois said to Lenard, "Lenard, darling, have you ever thought of quitting your job on the assembly line and painting full-time?" And Lenard says, "No, Lois, I couldn't do that. Besides, that's what I do. I work on an assembly line. Besides, how would I pay for this new box?" But the next day, something came over Lenard, and he went in to see the big fat line, the line who ran the assembly line. Big fat line leaned back and lit up a cigar, and he looked at Lenard and said, "Lenard, that looks like a squiggle in you. Get that out of you. We're all straight around here. Get down on that assembly line and keep everything running in line." Lenard said, "Well, big fat line, that's what I want to talk to you about. I'm going to become an artist. I'm going to paint circles and squiggles." The big fat line roared a big laugh at Lenard and said, "Don't be so silly. Circles. I've never heard of anything so silly in my life. Get back down that assembly line and keep everything running in line." Lenard shot back, "No, big fat line, I quit. I'm going to be an artist and I'm going to paint circles," and he walked out the door. As Lenard walked down the main line on the way home, he wondered how he was going to tell Lois what had happened. He was worried about what she might say. That night, Lenard took Lois to the beach, and as they sat there watching the water and the waves go by, Lois said, "Lenard, don't worry. I know everything will turn out. You'll be a big success. You'll see. It'll be fine. I know that you'll be a big success. Don't worry, dear." And then that point, Lenard turned and he looked at Lois and he drew for the first time the biggest curve ever on his face. And he said, "Thank you, Lois. I know that I can be a circle. I can be a square. I can be a triangle. I can be a squiggle. I can be anything I want. I'm free." And that, folks, is the end of the line. Thank you.